Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. I'm so glad to have you back today. And if you're new here and visiting my channel for the first time, welcome. I do lots of DIYs, trash to treasure, furniture flips with my husband Chris, and thrifting adventures to fit into the farmhouse decor. So in today's video, I am teaming up with Mom of MomDas Life Handmade. Super excited because she asked me to co-host with her on some DIY furniture. So I was super excited because that is right up my alley. I am a thrifter and I have a retail booth, so we love to find furniture and flip it for a profit. So along with having a retail booth, you know, on this YouTube channel, I try really hard to teach people what I am doing so that maybe what I do would work for them. I'm not a professional, this is just what works for me. So I cannot wait for this playlist to see what everybody did with furniture, or I am super excited about this and I can't wait to see what Mom did also. So down in the description box is the link to Mom's channel and the playlist. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I took a thrifted stool and reupholstered it. So this is the process of what I do and what I use when I am reupholstering. So like I said, I am self-taught. I just have watched other YouTubers and other videos and talked to people. So this is just the process that works for me. So here's a little footstool that I had thrifted for $10.09, which is more than I usually give for a footstool, but I felt that it was well made and I was hoping to be able to take the legs off. Now I have never taken on the challenge of doing one of these that I had to go down the side, and I knew this was going to be also a sewing project. So, sometimes it's nice to challenge yourself. So the first thing I wanted to do was to remove these legs, but after trying, I thought they were just twist off. Most of the ones I've ever gotten have just been twist off, but I could not get these to move. So I guess we'll see what's underneath this dust cover. And I probably find the most challenging to any of these kind of projects is having to remove staples. If that was going to deter anybody from doing a reupholstery job like this, it would be the staples, because yes, it does take a lot of time and a lot of elbow grease to pry these off. I do not leave any behind. I like to remove them all because I'd hate for a sharp edge to be somewhere. So now that I got the dust cover off, I can start removing that cording around the bottom. I don't plan on keeping that either. But as you can see, this little stool is made very well. They actually have the legs or pieces of wood that go all the way down to the top and are bolted in very well, not with anything I have to remove them. So they are just going to get painted on this form, and I am very happy about that. That means they won't easily break. This is just a very well made stool. So if you have never reupholstered or attempted anything like this, maybe your concept might be, oh, there's one staple that all comes off at once. Oh, no. So the dust cover has its own set of staples. The cording has its own set of staples. The fabric has its own set of staples. So staple by staple, you slowly get this taken apart. And so it is the love of the game of the finished product. Oops, when I went to remove the fabric, I forgot that it had buttons on, so I needed to cut these buttons. That's what these strings are, the buttons that go all the way through. So this is some of the nicest padding I've ever had left behind, so I think I'm going to be able to reuse this part. So before painting, I'm going to clean these legs off with some crud cutter. They are in wonderful condition. I don't need to sand them or anything. All I do is need to clean them. The crud cutter is a nice deglosser. It gets any oils and residue. And then after you clean them, you want to make sure that it's thoroughly dry before you start painting. So since I cannot remove the legs, I'm going to have to start painting where, I did tape off around the legs, so hopefully I don't get it on that padding. I know it'll be covered with fabric, but I would still know that I got it painted. So I'm using my black onyx flat that I get at Walmart. It's ready to use. You just pick it off the shelf. So I already can tell that I'm in absolute love with the way these are looking in black. So I think that that's what color they're going to be. So after 2 coats of the black have thoroughly dried, I am going to use some polyacrylic just to seal that black in. You know, the underneath was a little bit shiny. I didn't want to have to pre-sand it. So this is just going to seal that black in before I get to distress it. So I am on to distressing now. I am taking a 220 sandpaper, and when it comes to distressing, you know, these only have 2 coats of paint on, so I'm choosing the 220 to distress because it just has the 2 coats. So all I'm doing is hitting the spots where there's sharp edges and roundness to it. What I mean by roundness is, like, you know, where the bubble part of the leg sticks out. That's where natural distressing would happen over time. Now for the rest of the areas that I did not distress, I didn't want the natural wood coming through, I'm just taking some steel wool, and the finest grade is usually what I keep on hand, and that just knocks down that shine that, even though it's a matte finish of that polyacrylic, it still gives a shine. So now that I'm done distressing, when it comes to distressing, it's just whatever's pleasing to your eye, a little, a lot, you know, it's just personal preference. And so this is just, the air compressor is just removing all that dust that I created by the sanding. So now if you've ever seen this process, you think, oh my gosh, my paint is just ruined. Look at all those marks. But I seal it in with this Waverly antiquing wax, and as you see, you know, as a reupholsterer, and I use that drop cloth, I always have leftover pieces of this drop cloth, so this is what I use for my staining. So I absolutely love this Waverly antiquing wax. I love how it just brings that black paint up a notch, hits that natural wood, and then where all that little scuff marks that you think that you see, you will not see it as soon as this dries. It just absolutely brings this black up a notch. So on this previous padding, you can still see those buttonholes, and that will not go away. If you upholster over that, they will still be there and they will show through the fabric. So luckily, as part of my thrifting adventures, I always look at this area, and I had thrifted this pad for $209, so perfect to help keep my costs down and my retail costs down. And so now what I'm doing is just taking a Sharpie, marking where I need to cut it. And then to cut the foam, I use an electric knife. Electric knife, this is the only thing I use it for, and it is like a hot knife through cold butter. It just slices this foam for reupholstering just wonderfully. So now that I've got the foam cut, I'm going to be using the spray adhesive. I like to use it because I do not want my foam to be slipping when I am going to put the fabric on it. So, and then I had to really apply a lot because the other foam just soaked it right in. But as you saw, I got that on a clearance for $5 at Meijer's. But this really is a nice step because when you're reupholstering it could shift side to side. And then you just need to push some pressure down, give it a couple seconds to bond. And now another thing that I like to use is I like to get this batting. Well, and I will tell you, as a thrifter, yep, I thrift this batting all the time. It's quilter's batting, and so for $1.09, $2.09, there again helps keep my retail costs down. So all you do is just put it over the entire thing, cut off what you do not need, and then staple it down. And you want to pull it taut. But the batting is very, like, if you pull it too tight, you will rip it, and then you don't want to cause any puckers. So then after getting it all stapled down, I just cut off the excess. So what I'm doing here is taking a fabric measuring tape and getting an idea of what size of the drop cloth fabric I need to cut. So I needed to leave a couple inches on both sides extra, so I have enough to, you want plenty, you can't add any on. And remember, I always, as soon as I buy a piece of drop cloth, either at Harbor Freight or Amazon, I immediately wash it just with detergent and then dry it so it's pre-shrunk, and so when I go to do one of these projects, it's all ready to go. I have to tell you, I was happy that I could finally put this on top of my island. So now what I'm doing here is I'm going to be pinning off what is nice and tight because I'm going to be sewing these 4 corners. So you don't want to pull the fabric too much. You just want to kind of, gently gather it to the sides. So now I'm just taking just a regular stitch on my sewing machine. And you know, when you first start off, you want to, you know, reverse it a little bit so you have a nice strong stitch and just work all the way down. I don't really have to do that at the end so much because I will be stapling it onto the bottom, but definitely for that top, you don't want that to come apart. So then after getting all 4 corners sewed, I'm going to be cutting off the excess fabric that I do not need. I'm only leaving maybe a 1/4 of an inch to a half because you don't want, you know, this is going to be a nice tight fit on this little stool. So I don't want to leave, you know, where it's going to bunch up. So now that I've got that all sewn, I can turn it right side out so that sewed seam and those edges are inside of it. And so just kind of like a slip cover, I'm just going to slip it over the whole stool. And now this is the part where I'm going to have to work it because one side actually was like a 34 and then one was a 36. So now I can't remember. So I think I did have to take it off and put it on again. But you know, you just have to keep playing with it and stretching it because it's a nice tight fit. So after a few minutes of playing, this is what it looked like. It, you know, nice and tight, those little edges. It's so nice that I could sew it, and that is actually a nice tight fit. So now I'm going to be stapling the fabric onto the bottom. And so I'm just folding over that frayed edge and then putting a staple on. You know, this is where you're going to pull tight to begin with. And I find sometimes with the foam, you know, when you're doing this, you can't get a good grip on that. So sometimes I have to hammer them back down. So now I'm on to the opposite side. And so this is where you want to pull the fabric taut, but not so tight that you pucker the foam. So this is the part where it would have been nice to be able to remove these legs because it was really hard to get my staple gun into the corner. And as you see with the foam, you can't just get a nice strong grip down. So I actually was able to get a few staples in and then take a butter knife, and there's just enough of a lip in between where the top is and the leg is that I could also tuck it underneath there. So as far as the dust cover goes that covers up the bottom of this little stool, you know, when you remove the one that came with it, it always has tags and it's so thin that it always rips. Plus I try not to reuse too much of the fabric, you know, even though this is the first project, I actually used some foam just because it was in such nice condition. But this piece of white fabric that I'm using, it's what my upholstery foam is wrapped up in, and it just is perfect. It's the same thickness, it's just not black, and I actually prefer the white because if you have pets, you don't see the pet hair as much, but the same thing, just like anything else, you staple it on, you cut your excess off. Now there wasn't room to staple around the legs, so I did have to cut out around the legs, and then put a nice tight staple up to it. But like I said, this just helps keep costs down, be able to reuse stuff that you already have. So I knew I wanted to do a stencil on the top of this little stool, and I just wanted to do this simple little bird. I had been inspired by something that I had saw on Instagram, and so I am going to be cutting it out on freezer paper. Freezer paper, when the shiny side is down, melts, well, kind of bonds with the fabric and makes a great nice stencil, but it's also removable once you're ready to lift the freezer paper off. But it's a really thin paper to cut, so I have to move my measurements down, and as you see, just a nice simple bird. So just by chance I happened to use contact paper as my transfer tape, and I should have known that was a no-no because you have to heat this on, and so I should have used my good transfer tape. But sometimes your brain doesn't think completely sometimes, because the contact paper will melt once, because I have to iron this stencil on. So once I remembered this, it was already too late, so I will just work little by little. And so now here I'm just centering it, making sure that I have it as centered as I can. So now what I'm doing here is just taking a dish towel and a hot iron with no steam and just running it across just to get that little, for some reason, freezer paper, that shiny side down will just kind of melt a little bit onto that fabric and just makes a wonderful stencil. So now here I am removing the contact paper from the freezer paper, and as you see, the contact paper a little bit just, since it's a bigger stencil I would have had to recut this and use transfer tape if it would have been a whole bunch of little letters and words. But since it was a big stencil, I could just go gingerly removing the contact paper, then taking the iron and, you know, touching the freezer paper and getting it to seal down. So, you know, I'm not perfect, and, you know, my brain faded it a little bit there, but like I said, if it would have been a smaller with a whole bunch of words, I would have had to recut this and use transfer tape. So now that I got all the contact paper off that I used as transfer tape, and I did one more iron on it just to make sure that my stencil was nice and sealed. So now I'm going to be using Apple Barrel's multi-use in black for my stencil color. And then for my applicator, I just get these makeup sponges at the Dollar Tree. And I just love it because it's a one-time use and you just throw it away. So I am kind of doing a dabbing technique where I put a little bit of paint on, take a little bit of paint off. You just kind of have to eyeball when it comes to drop cloth, you know, because it doesn't take paint like a piece of paper or a piece of wood does. So I do go over it a couple times to get the darkness that I want. Does anybody else get so excited when they go to remove their stencil and see what they have left behind? And I know most of you were probably surprised that I did not do grain sack striping. I just did not feel that this little stool was a grain sacky kind of stool. So now what I'm doing here is that multi-use paint by Apple Barrel will be rough to the touch. And so to bond it with the fabric, I just use some parchment paper to and then a hot no steam iron, and I just iron it on, and then that paint just becomes right in with the fabric. It'll be nice and soft to the touch. So now to finish my reupholstering job off, I always seal in with a Scotchgard fabric protector, especially as a reseller. I mean, it's up to you if you're doing this for home, but as a reseller, it just makes me feel better, especially since this fabric is light. I like to protect that fabric. So I'm pretty happy with how this stool turned out. I just like that simple little bird on the top with those black legs. I just absolutely love this, and it's just a nice visual, and it is nice and comfortable, and it is nice and protected with that Scotchgard, and I cannot wait to put this in my booth. And I would probably put, I wanted to say, at least a $45 price tag on it. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and did you like my thrifted makeover into farmhouse bench? So is this something that you would have tried, or will you stay away from doing this kind of reupholstering job? You know, every level has a different difficulty, and you'll never know until you try. I want to thank Mom for asking me to co-host this. It just truly warmed my heart. And don't forget to check out that playlist down in my description box for all that participated with their DIY furniture. And if you're part of my YouTube family, thank you. And if you'd like to become part of my YouTube family, just hit that subscribe button.